This is Get Ready, North Carolina.
Although most people outside of North Carolina think hurricanes usually affect only the state's beaches, you know better. From the mountains to the Piedmont and the coastal plains, North Carolina has a long and sometimes severe hurricane history. Hello, I'm Dr. Bob Sheets. Welcome to Get Ready, North Carolina.
Here in North Carolina, the arrival of the latest hurricane season means the state is, once again, in the crosshairs.
The state extends well out in the Atlantic, well east of South Carolina and Georgia. The Outer Banks extend further than that. So as hurricanes move through the southern Atlantic and start that recurve process, they tend to sometimes make a beeline right straight toward the eastern part of North Carolina, including the Outer Banks.
1999's Hurricane Floyd remains the modern-day benchmark for North Carolinians. Tracking directly across the state, Floyd unleashed flooding on an almost biblical scale, putting the state's agricultural industry on the ropes for years while destroying tens of thousands of homes and businesses. For all the misery wrought by these storms, we're in better shape today than we've ever been in terms of forecasting and advance warnings. But all the technology, no matter how sophisticated, means nothing if the warnings are ignored.
Time to see what you need to know about getting safely through the hurricane season.
Question number 1. We often hear about the need to have a disaster plan. But what exactly does a disaster plan include? A. Phone number of a pre-designated out-of-state contact person. B. Emergency shelter locations, including pet-friendly shelters. C. Safety information if you remain at home. D. All of the above. The answer is D, all of the above. Disaster preparation begins at home, and we must assume responsibility for preparing and taking care of ourselves and our families.
And the truth of the matter is, we are well prepared in the state of North Carolina with emergency and disaster response capabilities. But all disasters start with the individual, quite frankly, and with the family.
Question number 2. An emergency survival kit is just as important as a disaster plan. What items need to be part of your emergency kit? A. Food and water for 3 days. B. A battery-powered radio. C. Insurance information. D. Cash. E. All of the above. Again, the answer is all of the above. Be sure to assemble an emergency preparedness kit and keep it in a convenient, readily available location. You should have one for your home, office, and automobile. Self-preparedness not only enhances your family's ability to survive, but also reduces the workload of first responders, emergency medical services, firefighters, and law enforcement. Question 3. For people living along the coast, what is a hurricane's greatest threat? A. High winds. B. Storm surge. C. Tornadoes. D. Rain. The answer is B. Storm surge. There's no question but that hurricanes are the biggest weather threat to the North Carolina coast. But even tropical storms can cause major damage. And while the winds can be amazingly intense, the most significant damage comes from the water. Using a series of complex equations known as the slosh model, scientists now have a reasonably good idea how storm surge will affect any given part of the North Carolina coast, regardless of the storm's strength. Question number 4. True or false? North Carolina's coastline is really the only area significantly at risk from hurricanes. The answer is false. Any tropical storm or hurricane slamming into the eastern Gulf Coast traditionally produces tornadoes and flooding in central or western North Carolina. Even tropical storms and their remnants as they break up over land can often bring nearly a foot or more of rainfall. Question number 5. What's the greatest threat for anyone who doesn't live at the beach or near the coastline? A. Tornadoes. B. Rain. C. Flooding. D. High winds. The answer is C. Flooding. Just because you might live in the mountains or Piedmont area, you cannot fool yourself into thinking you're immune from the effects of a hurricane. The worst hurricane-related flooding in a non-coastal area of North Carolina occurred in 1977 in 18 western counties. Francis and Ivan in 2004 ranked number 2. Question number 6. A hurricane is bearing down on North Carolina. When should you evacuate? A. Only if the storm is a Category 3 or higher. B. When a hurricane watch is issued. C. When a hurricane warning is issued. D. When emergency management gives the order. The answer is D. When emergency management gives the order to evacuate. What's more, if the order is given, it's because the threat is genuine. You need to move out of the evacuation zone, but you do not need to travel hundreds of miles. Simply get outside the zone and stay with friends or relatives, or move to a designated emergency shelter. Question 7. Around your home, during a hurricane, what's one of the most frequent points of structural failure from high winds? A. Windows. B. Garage doors. C. Improperly installed roof decking. D. Improperly installed siding. The answer is B. Garage doors. Because garage doors are segmented, storm winds have ample opportunity to invade and destroy. Retrofitting kits are widely available at local building supply stores. Well in advance of hurricane season, it's always a good idea to have a contractor thoroughly inspect your roof while you secure your windows. If you don't have a permanent shutter system for your windows, plywood will do, but make certain it's at least 3/8 of an inch thick. Question number 8. If you're caught by a hurricane, unable to evacuate, where is the safest place to ride it out? A. Try to get to a shelter. B. An interior room of your home. C. In your car. D. None of the above. The answer is B. Although there are virtually no safe locations within a storm, an interior room is always your best bet, especially if it has no skylights, glass doors, or windows. If you do not leave during a hurricane, plan on adding an axe to your hurricane survival kit, just in case you're trapped by rising water and need to cut your way through the roof from the attic. Under no circumstances should you drive your car anywhere if you're caught in the eye of the storm. Nearly a quarter of all hurricane-related deaths occur when people try to drive, or worse, abandon their cars during a storm.
It takes very little water to displace a vehicle off the highway, and if it washes you off the road, it's most likely that it's going to be into a ditch or a ravine where it's going to be much deeper. The car will likely submerge, and there's a high risk of drowning.
Question number 9. What help can I reasonably expect immediately after a hurricane or other disaster? A. Food and water at local markets. B. Emergency supplies of ice only. C. Mobile North Carolina National Guard supply centers. D. None of the above. The answer is D. None of the above. As a general rule, you should be prepared to be on your own for up to 72 hours following a hurricane. Question number 10. I wasn't affected by the storm. How can I help my neighbors? A. Volunteer in the affected area. B. Join a community emergency response team. C. Donate goods needed by survivors. D. All of the above. The answer is D. In the immediate aftermath of a storm, before governmental relief and rescue operations mobilize, neighbors and volunteers are often the only links to normalcy and recovery.
And in our state, we call it neighbors helping neighbors. Everyone has that personal responsibility to be prepared, and we all rally to the call to help our neighbor.
In North Carolina, there's a strong ethic of volunteer service through dozens of faith-based and other groups. On the state level, Community Emergency Response Teams, CERTs, are in place throughout North Carolina, working year-round, making sure those who want to help are well-trained in advance.
And there you have it. 10 questions on issues everyone who lives in a disaster-prone area needs to know.